Hi, this is Alan Posey with MAT 620. This is my final presentation entitled No Child Left Offline. It's going to look at K-12 education internet accessibility in Kenya and in the United States. This presentation will look at issues facing internet connectivity in rural Kenya and rural United States for their educational systems. The current issues will be addressed, and in the end I'll put forth a few solutions. To begin with, a very small percentage, less than 16% of Africans on the continent of Africa have access to internet. You can compare that to 63% of Europeans and almost 80% of North Americans. And yet, while Africans continue to face huge technological disadvantages, conditions have nonetheless improved dramatically over the past few years. Since 2009, Africa has seen unprecedented upgrades to its broadband infrastructure. And believe it or not, one of the biggest drivers was a single popular event, the 2010 FIFA World Cup. This celebrated tournament attracted more than 3 million football fans to Johannesburg that year. It also brought television crews, newscasters, all kinds of media outlets from all over the world, and they all required huge amounts of internet capability, and that's what drove billions of dollars worth of infrastructure and the backbone of the current internet for the continent of Africa. All began with the World Cup in 2010. Now, if you look at Kenya, it's got a lot of problems with being able to access the internet. One of them is that 90% of the area is very rural, with dirt roads, a lot of places that don't have electricity, and all these places where people populate have very small schools, and without electricity and much technology anywhere, they have a hard time getting access to the internet. So there's no way that these school children can access the information that's out there on the internet. One thing that the country of Africa has done, including Kenya, is they use a system called Information Communication Technology, ICT. And one of the things that they do is trying to address the problem, which is the lack of applicational skills and knowledge in schools and the surrounding community in Africa. And some of the factors of that are a lack of equipment and materials, inadequate training for teachers, scarcity of teachers in a lot of areas of Kenya, not much funding for their program, and the government policy that doesn't apply to them. Some of the intervention that the information communication technology system has brought about was a provision for equipment and materials. They're being able to train teachers on implementing this into the curriculum, and they also are able to address the skill proficiency for each of the teachers, and they've been able to change a lot of the curriculum to emphasize more technology. And this had a dramatic impact. It's be able to improve learner performance. It's improving the teaching methods, and it's improving the way that they can apply that in general and take that out into the workforce. And they can also make their students more ready for college and career. Now, if you look in the United States, there's a vast range. This is a map of high-speed internet availability in the United States. And you can see areas on the West Coast that are the darkest, meaning they have the fastest internet, San Francisco, Los Angeles. But if you look about the middle of the United States and you go eastward, there's a lot more darker areas. And those are the areas that have the higher speed internet. And all the white areas on the West Coast, in Nevada, Utah, Montana, they have very, very limited internet, if any at all. So if you look in some of these rural areas out in the high deserts in the United States, a lot of the places don't get cellular service. And if you're going to try to bring in high-speed internet into some of these districts that are far apart and out in the middle of nowhere, it costs an extremely large amount of money. Some of the things that the government has done in order to look at fixing this issue in the United States, one of them is in 2013, President Obama vowed to bring high-speed internet to schools, serving 99% of the students. To deliver on that promise, the FCC, led by Tom Wheeler, overhauled the federal E-rate program, which will now dole out almost $4 billion a year to help schools and libraries pay for telecommunication services and get them the high-speed internet. That's a huge increase in federal spending in education. And one of the problems is that small districts, if you look at nearly half of the school systems in America, that's more than 6,300 districts, they enroll fewer than 1,000 students, most of those being in rural areas. And when it comes to getting broadband service, they're often victims of being left out because the cost to bring that internet to so few students costs so much that the government overlooks them. Now, one thing I'm going to look at here is a case that I found in Coachella Valley in California, Southern California, very close to San Diego and the Mexican border. This is a school district where almost 100% of the students are socioeconomically disadvantaged, meaning they come from very low income households. One thing they did is they brought one-to-one devices to the students, and those were iPads. So every student in this district has an iPad. And they took Wi-Fi and they put it on the buses, so that way some of the kids that have like 1 or 2 hour bus rides, because this is a huge district but it's a small amount of kids, and they ride the bus for 1 or 2 hours, they can do their homework on the bus using their iPad, which is connected to the internet, which is running through the bus. And then one of the coolest things I saw was that they actually park some of the buses overnight in some of these areas, a lot of them being trailer parks, where these people can't afford internet access and most of their students reside. They park the buses there overnight and leave the internet on, and the students and actually the families can access this internet for free. And this is a video I found about it.
As we looked into how many of our parents and families were connected or not connected, we were sort of surprised. It was up to 30-35% who were not, because we do have a lot of trailer home parks in our district, and so they don't have connectivity. So we started thinking about ways that we can get those students connected, because what I was finding is students were coming to the school and sitting in the parking lot at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night so they can connect to do their homework. And so we said we have to do better. But we have buses. Let's put Wi-Fi routers on the bus, park them in the trailer home park or on a reservation where students are, and let them connect 24/7. But we ran into another challenge. The battery's going to run down. So the next step was, let's put solar panels on the buses so they can be charged overnight. And so that's been working brilliantly for us.
Again, I thought that was a fascinating use of funds to be able to get families and students access to the internet. And that was a decision that district made to do. So these are some possible solutions I'm going to put forth for Kenya and the United States, and they work for both of them for the most part. One of the things that both countries can do is they can look for large corporate donations from Google and Apple and other companies that have billions of dollars, and they can look for this to help provide them internet. The other thing they can do is they could look towards satellite internet. If you're out in the middle of the desert or the high desert areas of New Mexico, you might not get any cell phone service. And one of the only ways you can do that is by getting satellite internet. And actually the cost of that has come down a lot, and it'll probably keep going down in the future. So that will probably be an option coming up soon for many districts. The other thing they can do is they can have, in both countries, Kenya and the United States, is you can have some type of roving mobile lab, like a bus or a truck, that the people in Kenya could drive around to different schools, and it could be at a different site on certain days. And you could do the same thing in the United States, and large areas could utilize one or two of these and move around. And whether it's one day a week it's at their school or one day a month, that would give them access to the internet. And the other place you could always look for is more sponsors, but that would be more advertising possibly into this. And these are my references for my project. And thank you for watching this video.